Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Monday night. It's time for Connoisseurs of Wrestling. I'm your host, Taker's Minion. The normal person that does the introductions that night is had some technical issues that he's trying to straighten out, so I have to fill in for him. I'm joined, as you know, as always, with the from Two Guys One Sport, the one and only George at Sabes. Good evening, George.
Good evening. Good evening, you two. Thank you for having me on the show. We had a good one. We got a good one in store for the class.
Yes, we do. And we're also joined by the curator of everything historical for the connoisseurs, my wife, the lovely Legends Lover. Good evening, babe.
Hey, everybody.
So, how was everyone's weekend or week since we were last together?
It was good. It was mercifully uneventful, which I'll take. You know, some days, no news is indeed good news, right?
Yes. Isn't it so? And mine, I was had a baptism under fire with the new job.
Oh,
My first two shifts alone, for the most part, on Friday and Saturday, the two busiest nights of the week.
oh wow.
Go figure. Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. Doesn't make it any easier, but it does make sense at least.
I persevered and survived.
Oh yeah.
Bet you figure you didn't have as much work to do as you usually do.
No, but I didn't
Used-
have time to get on the computer either.
Well, my friend, you are nothing if not resilient
I try.
and succeed.
Why, thank you.
What
Well, tonight
Some-
tonight we're talking about monsters, monster heels. Some of the ones that we were talking about in the pre-show. You know, we'll get to the Wyatts, of course, because in the beginning they were a trio of monsters. You can't really say much about it now, but we have a few other names that came up during the pre-show, and we could talk about a little bit about Mr. Kevin Sullivan, known as the Taskmaster, someone who was a rather hard, stiff wrestler when he wrestled, was also more devious than Mr. Fuji as a manager. He always seemed to have like a mind control games over most of his stables, and he would get them to do the most egregious things to the faces.
What made Sullivan great was that his demeanor. He wasn't a screamer, a ranter, or a raver. He was a very calm man, and that made it even scarier when he was cutting his promos.
I would agree. I mean, you notice I'm being calm. I could cut a promo just like this, and you know, it's a scary thought. I mean, if you listen to me on Shooting the Breeze, I'm a completely different person there than I am here.
And
I am much more reserved here.
and when people are calm instead of screaming, it just makes them that much more unnerving. When a man is just calm, telling you how he's going to have his monsters attack you, that's way more terrifying than frothing at the mouth.
Well, look, he was at his wife at the time. In chains, a leash, the stuff he did to her in the ring. But yet, the voice was soft.
Exactly.
Yeah, he wouldn't. Always the best promo is the quiet promo.
Especially the quiet but still passionate.
Right.
He still made you believe every word.
Kind of like what Jake the Snake Roberts would do.
That's a great comparison, my friend. You're reading my mind.
We're on the same wavelength, George.
Yes, sir. It's probably kind of why this show works so damn well.
I would agree with that. I mean, Jake was another one that could scare the bejesus out of you with the look, and he would talk so calmly and so quiet, you would have to lean forward to hear him.
And it was still terrifying.
Yeah.
It was even more terrifying.
Yeah, you had to lean forward to hear him, and you're leaning forward, getting closer to his face, and it's like, God, his eyes are, it's just like,
Yep. He's got those doll's eyes.
Yeah.
Well, then don't forget you have a female that all she did is yell and scream. Painted up. She could look charming or she could look scary. But she was devious, especially as a manager. You got scary Sherry Motel.
That's another one. She was the exact opposite of what you and I are talking about, George.
But it was still just as effective because when you have that kind of charisma, that kind of speaking ability, it just
which she had in spades.
She could scare the shit out of anybody.
And did.
And she backed it up too.
Yeah, that was the thing. She could scare you to death, scare the shit out of you, and back it up by beating your ass.
And I've made this point for years, and I'll make it again on this show. Without sensational Sherry, there is no Shawn Michaels.
No,
in terms of an effective mainstream main event singles performer.
No,
she absolutely made him. And that gimmick that's still my favorite version of his gimmick with the giant mirror, and he would shove her to the ground and pose over her, and just the raw sexuality that they had as a couple, and in a federation that didn't have any of that. It was still the kids' federation.
Yeah,
was so effective at making him.
Look at Macho Man's turn when Elizabeth was gone, when he became king. He couldn't have done that without Sherry.
No, absolutely not. No way, no how. 100% correct.
No, everybody that Sherry Martel managed became something bigger than they were.
She was a word that gets thrown around a lot. She was a superstar in terms of, and it's a shame that managers are more or less on the way out. In the federation and in the E or whatever you want to call it these days, because not everyone cut a great promo. But that's okay. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. But I don't understand why you wouldn't have a heater when it's so simple if you can get a good one.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we've been fighting that battle for a while now, guys.
Well, look, you figure you had CM Punk and you have Brock Lesnar. Look, CM Punk could cut a promo. Brock can't. But who do they have as their mouthpiece?
That's a heater. They have Paul Heyman.
That's right.
CM Punk has publicly stated, though, he didn't need him.
He didn't need him, but they were friends.
But it doesn't mean the act didn't still work, though.
Oh no, I didn't say that, did I?
No, you're right.
He might not have needed him. I even said it. He didn't need him for a mouthpiece, but it made him more effective with him there.
Agreed.
Brock Lesnar, doesn't matter how he can wrestle, he wouldn't be where he is if it wasn't for Paul.
No. There are very, very few people who can get over just by being an in-ring worker. Daniel Bryan, and even he's not a bad promo, don't get me wrong.
He's mediocre.
Yeah, but he's not terrible, is my point.
No, he's not.
There's not a lot of guys or ladies who can get over by just being good in-ring workers. And I would point to you one person who has not gotten over despite being a great in-ring worker because she is a bad promo and who is desperately in need of a manager is one Sasha Banks. I would say someone like Sasha Banks could absolutely use a manager.
There's someone else too. Sorry to do this to you, Tim, but I think Asuka would do a lot better if she had a mouthpiece.
I have said that before, so I am not. It's no need to be sorry for it.
Because she would do a lot better. Her English isn't very good, for one thing, but that shouldn't affect it. She is great in the ring. But without a manager, they probably utilize her better.
Or have someone at least be a translator.
Yeah,
let her go off in Japanese, and then someone then have a guy translate for her.
Another one, Bobby Lashley. I don't really care for him. He's strong, he's good, but now he's seems like more a heel. Look who he's got as his mouthpiece.
Leo Rush. Leo Rush is a great promo.
And he's an obnoxious little guy, and which is the point.
Yes.
That's right, and it's working. Look at you figure we talked about the best one, Bobby Heenan. Look at all the guys he got over. Yes, we need more. Especially for the heels. You need more managers.
Yeah. We need
that was one of the great times when you had the managers. Because you never knew what they were going to do.
Imagine this, if you will. Braun Strowman with a manager. He's the monster among men, they say, right? But he shouldn't be talking. he should have a manager doing the talking for him. He just stands there and looks menacing and ominous. You know, and that would change the whole look of him, the whole characterization of him. You know, kind of like they could turn him into a oversized, giant-sized Brock Lesnar. They put him with Paul. That would be the perfect match.
Agreed. Agreed. But Paul Heyman makes everybody better.
Yeah.
It's still, I hate calling him Paul Heyman. I liked him as Paulie Dangerously. That's when he was at his best.
With the giant phone.
Yep. He was at his best.
The brick phone.
Yep.
And
Using it as a weapon.
For management, he was at his best. As Paulie Dangerously.
Yep. I'll agree to that. You know, he had that brick phone, which was real back in that time. That's when cell phones first started coming out. But
Go ahead.
or if you looked at it, actually, it was a cordless house phone, was what it was that he used. But it was a prop that worked.
Whatever you used to get heat. Jim Cornette used a tennis racket, which is absurd, but it worked because he got heat with it.
Yeah, because he hit the baby faces with it.
Well, George, what about yours and my favorite team? They would never have gotten a good start and gotten as far as they did without their mouthpiece.
Without Jimmy Hart?
That's right, him and his goddamn megaphone.
Yep. And guys, I say this all the time on my show Thursdays. Wrestling isn't hard.
9/8 Central.
Yeah, 9/8 Central. Thank you, sir. Wrestling isn't hard. It's not hard. You don't have to. It's not reinventing the wheel. You know.
You do what works.
You do what works, and it's worked for.
And managers worked.
And they still work. Look at Stokely Hathaway.
Yeah, Stokely Hathaway. Look at Leo Rush right now with Bobby Lashley.
Absolutely.
Or you could take him back from main roster, put him back in NXT. What is it? The Authors of Pain? When they had
Precious Paul? Yeah.
Precious Paul, but they had Paul Ellering. Well, now they got Drake Maverick as their manager. And it's working. And it's working.
And it's working because, again, this isn't rocket science. You know?
No, and that's a monster tag team right there in Akam and Razar.
Yes.
They're good, but excuse me.
They were You okay? Yeah. They were floundering without a mouthpiece. The Authors of Pain were floundering.
Yep.
And now they're starting to get they're starting to get their mojo back because they've got a third person that's doing the talking for them. And it works.
And when they first came in, they said they didn't need Paul Ellering. They did. But
that was, I think, more of a main roster deal. I think that was Vince that wanted to keep Paul off the road. But Paul didn't have a problem with that. He would have gone.
Yeah.
No, he knew.
But the thing is the Authors of Pain really didn't go anywhere.
No.
After Paul was gone.
Do you want to talk about the Wyatts?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's get on to the Wyatts. The scary, the let's say what, the first 12 to 18 months?
I would say the Wyatts as a group are, and especially Bray, are crying out for a return to the territory days.
Yes.
If Bray Wyatt was a territory wrestler with his gimmick, he would be great because he would spend 6 months in a place and, do the job to the babyface or whatever. And then he would go somewhere else for 6 months, and then somewhere else for 6 months, and somewhere else for 6 months. He would never get stale.
He would be kind of like the modern day Abdullah without all the blood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My favorite incarnate. Oh, go on, Legends Lover.
I was going to say, and you think of when Bray Wyatt first came in to wrestling. What was he? He was a nobody.
No, he was Husky Harris that failed miserably.
Yeah, what part of it?
From NXT season 2, right?
Yeah, he was in Nexus.
Yeah, and New Nexus, not even the Diet Coke of Nexus.
Yeah, and it didn't do no good.
No.
I say the best part of Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family is before they were even on the scene. Those flashes and stuff we would get, that scared the shit out of you.
Yeah, the little vignettes they would do.
Exactly. And what I loved most about Bray was that he wasn't a... I hate the supernatural spooky wizard Bray. I much like the Bray Wyatt who persuaded Harper and Rowan through personality and the force of his words and the power of his charisma. Cult leader Bray Wyatt, who wasn't the supernatural wizard, you know, with his hocus pocus maggots on the screen of the mat.
Oh, please, yeah, that was. And the only person in that match that was selling at WrestleMania was the referee.
Yeah, and the Bray Wyatt who used the power of his words, the Cape Fear Bray Wyatt.
Yes,
that's far and away the best Bray Wyatt. But the main roster did what the main roster does, and they took one aspect of a character and they hyper exaggerated it. And now here we are. Now we have Bray Wyatt, the Eater of Worlds, and it's terrible.
Who does nothing but job.
And then you got Rowan and Harper that are the Bludgeon Brothers,
which I liked. I liked the Bludgeon Brothers. I absolutely did. I mean, they still act like they did when they were in the Wyatt family. They haven't lost touch. Yeah, you're right. They haven't lost touch with that.
No, they're still the same.
One of the things about the Bludgeon Brothers that I liked was when they would slap each other in the face to fire themselves up.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's old school.
Very old school, my friend. Yeah. And I mean, the old school is the good school.
Yeah, you look at some of the matches with the Bruiser and the Crusher when they were tagging. What did they? If they got tired of beating on the guys they were wrestling, what did they do? Turn and beat on each other.
And it worked. Got them over.
Yeah. So, you know, you can consider them monsters for crying out loud because just the way they were.
The first version of the family before Harper and Rowan were released or whatever it was.
Yeah, the first
far and away the best. Far and away. The wars they had with the Shield are some of the best matches in the past 10 years.
Hell, the wars they had with anybody.
It was great.
Yeah.
And
because you never knew, and all of a sudden, lights go out. And everything. And then you're just there.
What worked most was that WWE is a more or less realistic promotion, right? It's grounded in reality. It's not Lucha Underground, you know? Where you live in Lucha Underground is a promotion that lives in a world of mysticism and magic and the supernatural and the undead and all that stuff. And it works because that's the universe established. Whatever your ground rules are, as long as you stick with them, it's fine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
WWE is 100% serious, you know, more or less. And then you have this guy trying to be a spooky cult wizard, and it fails because it doesn't fit in with anything else that universe wants to do.
Right.
Oh, Broken Matt Hardy, when he came up with the Woken, that was so much mysticism there.
But it worked.
But nothing he did was supernatural. It was just weird.
Right.
It seemed like it, but it wasn't.
It was just sleight of hand and weirdness, you know?
Yeah. But Bray, when the Fireflies and everything worked, but it was after that, it just started going away. They weren't the same.
True.
You know, when they brought the family back together and added Randy Orton to the mix, you know, then it was like, why him? Why Orton?
I enjoyed it at first. I thought the tag team was good. I thought it was cool in the ring, you know? And I thought it gave Orton some much-needed freshness. The problem is they ran out of steam in mid-March, and WrestleMania wasn't until early April.
Right.
So the last 3 weeks or so was just, oh, shit, now what do we do? We're treading ground. You know what I'm saying?
Treading water here.
We're treading water. Thank you. I couldn't think of the phrase. We're treading water here, and we have 2 more weeks to go. We have 1 more week to go, and we've run out of ideas.
Yeah.
And then the time they brought in Daniel Bryan, it just didn't work.
No, not at all. And they, to their credit, they realized that after 1 week or 2 weeks at most, and we're like, yeah, we screwed up here.
Yeah.
You know? So at least I'll give them credit for that. You know?
But
for at least realizing their mistake, and then turning it.
That's what, one time out of 1,000?
Yeah, it doesn't happen often.
No.
Yeah, they realized it right away and were able to fix it. But
What was done at that point. It kind of tarnished everybody. You know, it's just, damn phone.
turn your ringer off.
All right, I'll turn it off.
And then you figured what was scary with the Wyatts is the way they would do that. Their entrance, the flashes of the scenes. Lights would go out. All of a sudden, Bray's in the ring. Somebody's in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Or Bray coming out with that light. Blowing it and sitting there in his rocking chair.
That used to freak me out when that damn rocking chair would just show up and he'd be sitting in it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like where in the hell are they pulling this out of?
Or it'd sit there without him in it and just rock. And you hear Bray laugh. From
Yeah.
But all that stuff was with maybe the rocking chair, but the rest of that stuff, nothing magical about that. So it worked.
Yeah.
It was just this creepy guy using the force of his personality to screw with your head.
What they should have done, and if they wanted to base Bray Wyatt's scary character in reality, they should have used a Jim Jones.
Yes.
Reverend Jim Jones from Jamestown, Guyana.
Mm-hmm. Where the Kool-Aid, where the phrase "drinking the Kool-Aid" comes from.
Right. And they could have used that, and he could have said he had them drink, Harper and Rowan and Braun Strowman, for that matter, drank the Kool-Aid and became what they are now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you don't go all the way with the suicide stuff or the mass killings, murders,
right?
But you can still adapt. You can still adapt it, to your modern, to 2014 or whatever it was.
Yeah, well, like Taker said, they drank the Kool-Aid, and this is what happened to them. What they become.
Yep, that's the way to do it. And there again, George, simple.
I mean, not a complicated business, ladies and gentlemen. We talk about this all the time. It's not hard. Well, it is hard when you hate wrestling, and it is hard when you're embarrassed to be affiliated with wrestling, like the powers that be in the WWR. And it is hard when you try to take wrestling and make it into something that's not wrestling. Then it's hard, but that's your own stupidity.
Yeah, and we can put most of that at Kevin Dunn's feet.
Yeah, but I mean, it all starts with Vince, though.
I know, but Vince is the one who made WWF, made the Federation and the E, for that matter, the money. He made it. He got it over. He made it all on his own. He did it by himself. Hiring Kevin Dunn to do the producing, to be the producer, was the biggest mistake he ever made.
The biggest mistake, I think, was running WCW out.
I would like to offer giving Stephanie the book as one of his big mistakes.
Mm.
And she got rid of Paul Heyman because she was insecure.
Yeah. And Paul Heyman's a great booker. Now he's doing stuff with, I guess, he's helping agent some matches on Raw, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, the guy's got a brilliant mind for this business for a reason.
He just can't manage money for nothing.
Nope. But I mean, you want to talk about a charisma that he got all those guys to follow him, Yeah,
he got everybody. He had everybody drinking the Kool-Aid, and Taz, and everybody says that. That worked for him.
Let me ask you two a hypothetical.
Uh-oh.
And I don't know if I have an answer for this because he may be too far gone. Let's say Vince and company come to you two and say, we want to make Bray Wyatt something. We're putting you in charge of the Bray Wyatt character, right? Because there's obviously talent there,
There is.
I mean, there's some talent there. Let's not sell the man short. And I know I'm putting you on the spot last minute, but what would you do to try to rehabilitate the Bray Wyatt character?
You want to take that one?
It's hard because you can't go back where he was. It won't work no more.
Agreed. I think that genie's out of the bottle.
I think they can get back to it. And here's why. He just spent, what, 3 months, 4 months with Matt Hardy as Woken Bray Wyatt, right?
Mm-hmm.
At Woken Matt. They became
Yeah.
the leaders of worlds. And it was a great gimmick. It was over. It was fantastic. Everybody loved it.
Got a huge pop at WrestleMania.
Yeah, it did.
He could keep up with that one, even though Matt's gone. But he could keep up with that, saying that he is Woken and take over that one.
Mm-mm. Doing the Woken thing without Matt Hardy won't work.
No, it won't. But I
Okay,
think you can kind of emphasize the...
So what you do is Bray, because Matt, even though Matt was Bray Wyatt's steadying influence. Okay, now that influence is gone, and Bray is on his own again, and he's sliding down into despair and everything. And where does he go? He goes back to the bayous, and who does he find? Sister Abigail, and we start that there, and we make Sister Abigail real, a real person.
Okay.
And bring that character back. Then you have the spooky Bray Wyatt back with this person that follows him to the ring, goes to the ring, and doesn't say a word.
Sits in the rock.
Just sits in a rocking chair and watches and nods when things are going good. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay.
So,
and then less wizardry and more of the cult leader.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would do with it.
That's one way, but also Matt retired from wrestling itself. But then what's to say he can't be there as an advisor? If he come back as an advisor, he could be an advisor to Bray, and they could still work that gimmick.
What do you think, George?
I think that could work. I kind of like it, to be honest.
Because it's kind of hard to go back to the other once this. Have Matt come back and take Bray onward.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you think, George?
I think it could go back. I think you can de-emphasize the wizardry and re-emphasize the cult leader. And almost, when's the last time has Bray Wyatt done anything of note since Matt retired?
No, he's not been around.
Then I think you can bring him back more or less with a clean slate.
That's why I say this would be the time to actually have Sister Abigail, the character, up here.
I think that's a good way. I think that could work.
Because he's talked so much about her in the past. And now he said that he was a lost soul after Matt left again.
Mm-hmm.
And so he went home. And he went back to his roots. And who did he find? After believing that Randy Orton destroyed her, here she is, and he brings her out, and she doesn't say anything.
She is.
And she just sits on a rocking chair, top of the ramp, and just rocks. That's all she does.
I think there's something there. I think there's a lot there, my friend. I mean, the current direction is not tenable.
Excuse me.
Yeah, the current direction is not working.
No. And that's the thing. Right now there's a pile of clay there with that's Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
There's a couple different ways you can work it. The two that we brought up, and like you said, a clean slate. You could start something else too.
But you gotta have for yours, LL, and for mine, we have to have the vignettes.
Yes.
The short little videos, showing us what he's doing. He's out trying to find his next guy like Matt Hardy, and and he finds Sister Abigail again and falls back into her trap
Mm-hmm.
and becomes this evil mercenary type guy who's, doesn't wear the hat anymore. He's got the stringy hair, but he wears tattered clothing now because he spent so much time in the swamps.
Exactly.
Out in the swamps, living out in
but
the
he's
swamps.
just a man. He's not a wizard.
No, he's just a man who's incensed and enraged. And just wants to kill everything and everybody.
I think that's great.
Instead of the
and you know what's great about that, Takers?
What's that?
It's simple. Simplicity.
And you don't have the cult leader.
No.
That's gone. Just a man that's enraged because he lost everything.
Yeah.
And you know what? Anybody can relate to that.
Yes. So WWE, Vince, your spies, if you're listening, I just gift wrapped you something.
I mean, you're right about the lump of clay. There is absolutely something there. It's on them to make it work.
Yeah, it is. It is. We haven't even touched the surface about Rowan and Harper yet. And then we got the Braun Strowman. These are 4 members. These were 4 people that were part of the Wyatt family. Before it broke up the first time.
I think the Braun Strowman character has run its course. To be honest.
Yeah. The current one
wasn't really
you can't be like, he's the monster among men and blah 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 blah. And
yet he can't beat Roman Reigns.
No, and he can't. No,
and he eats one F5 from Brock Lesnar, and
he's done.
He's done. Yeah. Whereas Roman Reigns is eating 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah, you can't. That character, or at least the presentation of said character, has run its course.
They had a great opportunity when he was destroying Kevin Owens. Yeah. Every conceivable way, off the high ladder, off the cage. They could have kept that going and made him more of a monster.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm waiting for him to turn on Dolph and Drew. But
sure, I guess. One of the problems, though, is whatever. The way they hot shot everything, so it doesn't much matter.
There's no story. They don't allow stories to breathe anymore.
They don't allow stories to breathe. You're very right. Now, I understand they have a lot of television to fill on it, and I am sensitive to that. But that doesn't mean you have to. That doesn't mean you have to rush everything.
Yeah,
they started a storyline and just all of a sudden it just ended.
Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's very, we say it all the time. Wrestling is simple. We get what is happening, and this is a scary thought, but it's the truth. The WWE at times scares me, and I'm going to explain why. Week after week, month after month, year after year, it's the same group of 7 to 10 wrestlers we get all the time.
And they got how many wrestlers on their roster?
And they got how many? Yeah, how many on the main roster between the 2 shows? Plenty. Many. And many of them sit where, George? In catering. Because creative has nothing for you.
It's just such a waste.
It is. This is the scary part. God forbid it, they try to tell multiple stories with multiple different characters, and we don't have to have the same people on television every week, every month. We don't have to have it. Give us,
like their main event coming up. It's always the same 3 in the main event. Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, and Brock Lesnar.
Yep.
It's always a 3-way. It's always those 3.
Or a variation thereof.
And this has been going on for how long? Over a year.
Yeah, it's...
Why beat something into the ground?
It's lazy.
But
this horse is dead. They killed it several times, and they're still beating it. Why?
Yeah, this beats me, guys. I don't know. But
you brought up Braun Strowman when you're talking about the Wyatt family. I don't think the Braun Strowman character really ever worked in the Wyatt family.
How so?
I'm
not saying you're wrong. I'm just make a case.
To me, it was just overkill. Too much. He didn't last in here. He was there, what, a month or so, and then he was on by himself. It's just, it was too much overkill. You figure Harper and Rowan, they started losing their place a little bit because it seemed like Braun outshone them. He was even outshining Bray. So for me, for the White family, that part didn't work. They should have left it with just the three of them.
Okay. I can see it. I can absolutely see it. He's almost too powerful for them.
Yeah. Braun Strowman was overshadowing the family just because of his strength and size alone.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. It makes sense. He was too powerful. And then they kind of tried to see what would happen, and then they didn't work.
No.
But then all of a sudden, the whole family just fell apart.
They had a good thing. Oh, go ahead.
It's after they brought Braun Strowman in, and Braun Strowman was gone. It just seemed like everything started falling apart for the Wyatt family. They brought in Daniel Bryan. It didn't work. They brought in Randy Orton. It didn't work. It's just everything.
And then they were kind of flailing.
Yeah, so little by little, by doing this to the Wyatt family, you brought it down. When you had the scariest trio around.
The only ones that could, stand up and fight, head face to face, heads up with the Shield.
Yeah.
They put on some great trios matches.
Yeah.
They did.
Guys.
And it worked because they were so different than the Shield. There was a great foil to them.
Right. But once they broke it, once they added Braun Strowman and then broke the family up the first time, it actually started when they had Kane in a Ring of Fire match. Or, that
was a disaster.
Yes, that was an absolute disaster. But that was the beginning of the end of the cult leader, Bray Wyatt.
Yeah. And it cut, like I said, and then adding them other three in, it just did not mesh. You just slowly just tore that team apart. And I think it could have went on for quite a while yet.
I do too. Braun Strowman was actually brought up because of, I think, Rowan being injured. Because that's what, like you said, you said in a pre-show, George. That's what Rowan does.
Yeah, he just gets hurt. Unfortunately, I mean, some bodies just don't work in this business,
and he's one of them. Unfortunately, great skill. He's a hard worker in the ring. We can't fault his work in the ring.
His body is just failing him.
His body just won't let him, and he's young. That's the thing. He's very young. He's only like 24, 25 years old.
He's not. Yeah, exactly.
But like I said, when they broke that family up the first time, they lost the cult leader because they were starting to dabble in the supernatural wizardry shit, and it wasn't working.
No, it was a failure.
Yeah, they wanted him to be the next Undertaker. It wasn't going to work.
And we've talked about that on this show, that the gimmick itself sucks. The Undertaker worked because Mark Calloway is so awesome. So expecting that to work wholesale with another guy who's not as awesome.
Yeah. Mark Calloway could no sell being punched and get away with it. Don't ask me how he got away with it. He got away with it. And that was you look at the very first time he debuted. We're going to talk more about this in the next week or two.
Mm-hmm.
You can check it out on the network. He had SummerSlam 1990. And they're bringing him out and they're talking about him. And they pan to a kid ringside who is crying like a baby because The Undertaker was scary. And he was a scary character. But Bray was a scary character as the cult leader, not as the quasi wannabe wizard / Undertaker. It wasn't going to work. And I knew it. As I believe everybody else did. You know, I devoured Kane's soul. I devoured Undertaker's soul. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
If you did that, how come they're back kicking your ass?
Yeah. And right away.
Uh-huh.
So it's just the whole thing was just absurd.
Yeah.
And by then he was dead man walking because he got fed to Super Cena in 2014.
Yeah.
Because remember that was a great feud. He was trying to get John Cena to betray his convictions. It's like, okay, we could get something here, you know? We may have something, but you know, it was not to be, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. And then they feed him to Brock. They fed Undertaker to Brock.
Okay, guys, hey, what do you think was the scariest entrance of the Wyatts?
Anytime it was the three of them going to war, the original three.
Yeah.
That was just and great music, by the way. And that's a huge difference. That's a great song for them.
It is.
You know, it's just eerie and foreboding, and it just works for them so damn well.
Yeah, it had a touch of deliverance to it.
Exactly.
Just, you know. And for those of you that are young that don't understand what deliverance is, go watch the movie.
Yeah. Go watch Burt Reynolds, rest in peace. Go watch the movie.
Yep.
It's just the music made it too, because that would not have worked without the music.
Yeah, you got to have the music.
Yeah, I mean, a good entrance could take you a long way. Look at Bobby Roode.
Yep. Yeah, well, look at Undertaker.
Yeah.
Great entrance.
Great entrance. Great in person.
Yeah, you've seen, you bastard.
Pretty awesome.
I don't say that with ill will in my voice.
I know.
That's on my bucket list, but I probably will never get it.
Never say never.
Yeah. They need to start going back to smaller venues.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But
there it is.
Perfect for the character.
It was perfect for him. It fit.
Yep, it fits.
The family as a unit worked. Why break it?
It did.
Why break it up?
Because to the WWE tag teams only exist to be broken up.
Well, isn't that what most promotions did, and even in the territories?
The tag teams, to them, tag teams don't matter. Singles wrestlers matter. But the problem is, a tag team can be greater than the whole of some of its parts.
Right. I can't see. You know, the one trio that's bucked the system has been the Shield.
Yeah.
They've been great as a team and as a unit, and they've all been great as singles.
True.
There's another trio that's been too in the past. Fabulous Freebirds.
Yeah.
That's different era, though.
Different era.
They could
and not under the WWE.
Yeah, that's true. They could wrestle singly. They could wrestle as a team. Well, you're right. You also got the New Day that can do both. Wrestle together.
I think the New Day has run its course.
They could wrestle together and wrestle separately. Because Kofi always was a good wrestler.
Yeah.
Still is.
Still is.
Whether he's a tag team or singly. Okay, we talked about entrances with the Wyatts. What do you think about when they first started the Fireflies? But when they had the children singing.
Oh God, he's got
Eerie,
the whole
creepy.
The whole world thing.
Yeah, that was scarier.
Yes, it was. They had that one kid come up singing the song live. Well, I think that was at WrestleMania, wasn't it?
They didn't have one kid. They had a group of kids there.
They had a group of kids, I thought.
Yeah, there was one that had a group of kids, and then there was
And
one
they
that
had the
was-
weird voice modulation when Wyatt beat Cena in the cage.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you know, they hit the nail on the head. They make him very scary
Yeah,
at times. At times.
at times. It was few and far between, though, unfortunately.
But like I said, the character I laid out for WWE to use, you know, you do a 6-week build of him coming back, and over the 6 weeks you show little snippets of him out there, and then when he finally does come back, he comes back and he just destroys everybody. He just
So, the easiest way to get somebody over is to have him or her kill people.
Yeah.
You know? Not literally, obviously, but just maul them in the ring.
yeah, have him attack Roman Reigns, have him interfere in a match with Roman Reigns and somebody, or Seth Rollins and somebody. Just yeah.
I mean, I still think there's some potential there. Not a ton, but right now, Bray he bores me.
He doesn't scare you. He doesn't impress you. He
He does
doesn't.
nothing. He just
Yeah.
rambles. He's just like the old guy yelling on the train, rambling about shit. You know?
Yep. And you see a lot of them riding the train every day.
I
don't you?
mean, he doesn't do it for me, you know?
Yep.
And he doesn't do it for a lot of people. So,
We can talk about the Bludgeon Brothers once they got spun off and finally were able to do something together.
yep,
They were scary. I don't
they
care.
certainly were.
They wrecked everybody they had a match with.
But they never changed. That was their character when they were in the wife.
Yeah. That's it.
They
You're right.
stayed the same.
Their character was identical. They kept their characters.
Yep, they stayed the same. So that's what makes them scary, and that's what's making them good. Is they didn't change.
No, they didn't.
Actually, they made themselves better with the little additions they had, like with the wooden mallets and the mask. Although the sheep's mask that Rowan wore never, still showed a connection to the Wyatt family, but the skull mask that Harper was wearing, now that was wicked looking.
The problem with the Bludgeon Brothers is, again, they're in a company that's real. They're not that real, unfortunately.
No, but the thing about it was, George, is it was working.
Was it? They were not getting over.
I thought they were.
I didn't think they were getting over at all.
Who, the Bludgeon Brothers?
Yeah, I didn't think they were getting over.
Oh yeah, they are.
I disagree.
One of the reasons that how they got over, George, was that tag match with the Usos at the pay-per-view, where they were basically threatening. They had the mouths up. They were out to. It looked like they were out to kill the Usos. That was a double turn. The Usos were starting to get the positive pops again. So send them out there with the Bludgeon Brothers. Had the Bludgeon Brothers basically destroy them, solidify them as heels, and solidify the Usos as faces, who still do heelish things.
Well, yeah, the Usos are tremendous. There's no one's arguing that. But I thought the Bludgeon Brothers never got to the level of their push. They were presented as these monsters who would wreck everything and everyone in their path.
Well, part of the problem with that is that they were on their way to doing just that. But at I can't remember which pay-per-view it was. I think it was oh crap. It was after WrestleMania.
It wasn't that pay-per-view.
They're all oh crap.
Yeah.
Anyway, Rowan got hurt. Shoulder.
Yeah.
Or something with his tricep again. And the following night they had the rematch, and the New Day took the belts off of them. Why? Because Rowan's hurt. And they were starting to get the steam on their push. They were starting to build steam. They were looking like they were going to wreck everybody. They were on that track, and then Rowan derailed it by getting hurt. I feel bad for him.
Not the first time.
No, it's not the first time. I feel bad for him. I mean, they had something really good going. He was starting to get, catch on. People were starting to really look at these guys like, who is going to stop these people? Who's going to stop them? Because the way they were winning, they were basically destroying everybody. So,
Well, not only that, because Ron was hurt, but what kind of hurt him was the New Day winning. By the New Day winning, that hurt him.
Let me ask you this. I'm full of questions today.
I can see that.
When Rowan comes back, and I don't know when, it will not be for a little bit because that's a serious injury that he suffered.
Mm-hmm.
When Rowan comes back, do you reform the Bludgeon Brothers and pick up where they left off, or what do you do with the two of them?
That I don't know. And look who's joined us. Good evening, Biff.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
That's a good segue.
You talk about the shitty Bludgeon Brothers, and it's a good segue to Biff. Okay.
I'm not the fan that these two are, Mr. Kensington.
I cannot stand the Bludgeon Brothers. I hate that tag team. It's not, all right. This would have worked so much better had we never seen Luke Harper and Eric Rowan before. If they were like a brand new tag team coming in, yeah, it would have been a cheesy throwback to like the monster heel teams of the 80s and early 90s, but at least they would have a cause to be as tough and as undefeatable as they were. But Rowan and Harper, for the last 3 or 4 years, had been the really crappy flunkies in the Wyatt family, a Wyatt family that never beat anybody and was always considered something of a joke. And so you ask us to take two guys seriously as these world-beating monster heels when we remember them as being the guys that were basically jobbers for so many years. It was the same principle that made Jinder Mahal's title run fail. You can't ruin people and then just expect to reheat them on a dime. And I just never cared for the Bludgeon Brothers as a result.
Well, one of the things we talked about in your absence there, Biff, was Bray Wyatt. We talked extensively about him and, going from the cult leader to the wizardish, supernatural crap, the mystic crap, to the Woken Bray Wyatt that we had with Matt Hardy. What would you do now with Bray Wyatt now that he's coming back? That was the question George asked us. So what would you do to make Bray Wyatt a monster heel again?
I wouldn't make him a heel, to be honest. I would make him a babyface. I would make him... I know I'm not saying that Bray Wyatt is going to replicate the success of The Undertaker. I think that train has long since sailed. But even diet knockoff Undertaker Bray Wyatt could still be something fresh. And the thing that I always thought would be really cool, now they went a different direction with Baron Corbin, especially now that he's bald and looks like a TGI Fridays manager. I always thought that they could make hay with a Sons of Anarchy inspired group where Wyatt doesn't
like Aces and Eights?
Kind of like Aces and Eights, but a little bit more gritty and a little bit more trying to think of the term, like Easy Rider meets Sons of Anarchy. Where Bray Wyatt, he looks like a biker. He's got, the big beard. He's got, the cool look about him where he looks like he could beat the crap out of you. He looks tough. And so, parlay that into a guy that rides a motorcycle, drinks beer, just kicks ass, doesn't have many words, but when he does talk, you listen. The Jake Roberts principle, where he's not going to scream at you, but he's going to talk in a very methodical way and just make him kind of like that really intellectual character with a really hard, tough veneer I always thought that would be the perfect way to transition him out of the cult stuff into a more fan-friendly character.
I had an idea that was interesting. And I don't know. I mean, I had him go back to the bayous and get lost and find, get him, because Matt Hardy's gone now, and you have him come back to being the more along the lines. He gets taken over by Sister Abigail because he finds her not dead, but she's alive, or the spirit of her is alive, and he finds her again. And we start over there, but he's by himself this time. Only this time, he tries to he brings in. You can take, for example, look at Xavier Woods when they were having the thing with Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family. How he would be taken almost instantly by Bray Wyatt's talk, and he'd start walking towards him. Okay, build on that. Build on that, and have Xavier Woods leave New Day and go over to Bray Wyatt. Why? Because mind control. Do something like that. Go a little Kevin Sullivan-ish with him.
Well, I'm not for certain that Xavier Woods. I understand you were kind of making an example of something that happened that could work in the future. I don't know that Xavier Woods would necessarily be my first choice for one of his lackeys, but having like the manipulator role, which that was kind of what Ministry Undertaker was,
right?
Yes.
Was that manipulative, talk you to his side type? That
Stephanie's driver, not turning the lights out. He was an actual person.
Right. That I could buy. Like, I don't necessarily want to see them go into full-on mysticism and actual voodoo. Like, there's a sharp distinction between a Papa Shango and a Kevin Sullivan.
Yes.
Right.
Kevin Sullivan. I want more Kevin Sullivan. I want less Papa Shango. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Now that I could completely buy into because it's not far from what he's done in the past.
And that's a little bit of a change on what I did, George, because I thought about it more.
No, I sprung the question on you last minute. It's understandable, my friend.
But you also said where he meets up with Sister Abigail. Have Sister Abigail, come out with him. Still.
Right.
Say a word.
Yeah. Have Sister Abigail show up, as a person. Not Bray Wyatt and drag, which they tried to do before he got
Oh, my
sick.
God.
Remember
I forgot
that?
about that.
Yes.
That's a non-starter.
That was
So you bring out someone to play Sister Abigail. And all Sister Abigail does, Sister Abigail don't speak. She just comes out. She sits at the top of the ramp in the rocking chair and just rocks back and forth, watching the match. When it's all over, he comes down to the ring and drops to his knees and does the crucifix thing for her. Like, and she gets up and they leave. That's it.
You know something? I would do you one better. I would have her become like one of the most dominant. And this is interesting. You bring this up because what has the women's division never had?
A dominant female.
It's never had an Undertaker style dominant female. You know who? I have a perfect candidate for this. Rosemary.
Yeah, I know, but Rosemary is not going to leave TNA right now.
No, but if you don't get her, then who else would you consider out of the pool that you have available down in NXT? I don't think you could do Nikki Cross. Nikki Cross is too well established in her own.
you need someone new.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need someone new.
But,
well, Sue Young, because she's not signed to Impact, is she? No. She's on a per appearance.
She's on a per diem. Yeah.
I think per appearance. That would be because she's one of the bridesmaids, or she's the
undead zombie or whatever it is, zombie bride or
zombie bride. Yeah, that would work.
Okay,
that would work in the E.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, but I mean, they would just do what they did with Bray Wyatt. They would just tone her. They would either tone her down or exaggerate her. Bray Wyatt worked in NXT, and then he failed on the main roster. And Biff, I made this point when you were away. Bray Wyatt would be perfect for the territory days because he could just spend 6 months somewhere and then leave when he starts to get stale.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Bray Wyatt did work in the territory days. It was called Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It did work. So,
Yeah, like Bray Wyatt would work if there was territories today. He'd be the modern day Abdullah the Butcher. I think he could work
Going from place to place.
just
Yeah.
going place to place, make his money, do what he has to do, and go on to the next place. Never stay tied down.
yeah, if Bray Wyatt were 20 years older than he actually was, and he broke in the business 20 years, 30 years before, he basically would have made a 2-year circuit. Every 2 years, he would hit 4 territories. He would hit Dallas, Memphis, he would hit Tampa, and then he would hit probably Mid-South.
Right.
And he would just cycle through those 4 territories, and he would make $200,000 to $500,000 a year, and he would just become, just a touring attraction, and would make a killing doing it.
Right.
So,
And he'd be the scary monster to come in to cool off the heel or cool off the face.
yeah. Oh, can you imagine? Yeah, Dusty Rhodes and Bray would have had a field day with each other. Though that would have been such a money feud. It's a shame that we never got a chance to see Dusty and him interact in NXT. That would have been really interesting.
Well, Adam has an interesting point. He says put Bray with Bo and reform the Blackjacks and see what you have. That's an interesting twist.
I really like that, actually.
So do I. Yeah. I like that. I approve. Adam.
That's an interesting twist on things, isn't it?
See, let it be known that Cleveland Browns / Ohio State fans can have ideas that don't completely suck.
Yes.
You're all sorts of, your Panthers didn't look too good on Sunday. I don't think you could be throwing shade.
My Alabama Crimson Tide looked just fine, though.
Oh, yeah, we go. Another bandwagon Bama fan.
But
Here we go. Another bandwagon Bama fan.
No.
Here we go.
Georgie's not.
I lived through the Mike Shula years.
Here we go.
I lived through
I'm
the years
sure.
where Cotton Bowl was like heaven on earth. I paid my dues.
They all say that. They all say that, takers.
I'm a Bama fan as well.
Who am I?
They all say that.
I was a Bama fan when they played Penn State in the 1979 Sugar Bowl and stopped Penn State 4 times on the 1-yard line. Back when Bear Bryant was the coach. I lived through all the ups and downs with that team. So
Call me a Red Sox bandwagon jumper too, please, and I'll enlighten you about the curse that was 99 and 2003.
99 wasn't a curse. You lost to a better team.
99 sucked.
Not really a curse when you lose to a better team.
Of course it.
It's not.
All
You lost to a better team.
all of the umpiring snafus.
When we have our show, next week, when we have this show next week, and y'all have lost, 4 games to 2 to Houston, that ain't gonna be a curse. You lost to a better team.
I beg your pardon. We're going to game 6. That would be game 6, wouldn't it?
I said 4 to 2.
No, we're gonna have a
cool it.
Mr.
Yeah.
Kensington.
Let's get focused and back on task.
I was about to say, Mr. Kensington.
Yes.
What are your thoughts? We talked a little bit about her briefly before we started the show proper. What are your thoughts on sensational Sherry Martel? I wanted to pick your brain for a minute.
My first thought of sensational Sherry Martel is always remembering Bobby Heenan perving a dish on her on commentary at the 92 Rumble.
Yeah.
If that makes me a sexist pig, that makes me a sexist pig. That's the first thing that comes to mind. No, in all seriousness, I grew up not liking her because she did her job. She was the heel evil manager that corrupted the Macho Man and basically hung around with Ted DiBiase and, just like this real snotty evil person. Loved to see her get her comeuppance. As I got older and could appreciate how awesome she was in the role, I mean, she is absolutely one of the unsung best parts of the Hulkamania era in WWE. from her days as a wrestler into her valet days. I mean, she nailed it. She was, right behind Heenan and Jimmy Hart for me in terms of managers.
Well, George said it best. She made HBK without Sherry, there would be no HBK Shawn Michaels. And I tend to agree.
I firmly believe that. In terms of a solo with that sort of cachet, Biff, I firmly believe that.
I definitely think that she helped
Quite a bit.
She helped quite a bit. I don't know that I could say honestly that Shawn wouldn't have gotten where he gotten had he been given Mr. Fuji or Jimmy Hart as a manager. And I say that because the strength of his heel turn was so potent that Shawn was always going to get a solid shot, and his talent would have basically carried him. Having said that, it was a perfect pairing. It's like Ric Flair didn't need J.J. Dillon, but put J.J. Dillon with Ric Flair and it's magic. CM Punk didn't need Paul Heyman, but you put them together and it's magic. Shawn and Sherry together was magic.
See, I don't... Oh, go on.
No, that was it.
I don't think... You said like Shawn and Mr. Fuji, and Mr. Fuji was excellent, and I'm not taking anything away from Mr. Fuji. But part of the reason that made the Heartbreak Kid work was that raw sexual chemistry the two of them had, with the mirror and him throwing her to the ground and her smiling and him posing over her. I don't think anyone else in the world or in history gives you that other than she does.
I certainly don't want to think of Shawn Michaels throwing Jimmy Hart to the ground in a sexual.
That would be just, hey, we don't kink shame, but
What were you going to say, LL?
But I was with George. When you look at his name, the Heartbreak Kid, what he was doing when he turned heel, how he was, you had to give him Sherry. That was the only thing you could do to really light a fire under that character.
Exactly. I mean, Shawn Michaels is talented enough that it would have worked. Would it have worked as quickly as it did, or to the level it did as quickly as it did? I mean, we'll never know, but I say no, it would not have. That she was an absolutely instrumental part of his act.
Well, see, this is where, and I don't want to be argumentative just for the sake of it, but this is where I think we disagree a little bit. I don't particularly view Shawn Michaels running 92 as being all that special. I don't think he really exploded until he got away from Sherry in 93.
But now, she springboarded him to that, though.
Yes and no, to an extent. Because I'm not talking about the 93 when he's with Luna immediately after. And I'm not talking about the 93 when he's feuding with Marty Jannetty. I am talking more towards the end of 93 when we're heading into firmly the new generation era. I don't think Shawn really became Shawn Michaels until then. And so much of what I look at 92 and the first half of 93 with Shawn Michaels is a fun run, and it's an interesting pairing because I love Sherry and I like Shawn, and so the two work well together. But I'm not prepared to say that Sherry is the reason Shawn got to where he got, because it took Shawn not only breaking away from her, but kind of redefining the Heartbreak Kid character a little bit before Shawn really became the Shawn that kind of carried the company with Brett in the mid-90s, in my estimation. Now, others may differ. So
your mileage may vary. Yeah, but what the thing about it is that what made the three of us talked about it. Remember the whole scary Sherry thing that Brutus the Barber Beefcake started.
Yes,
and that was basically a direct attack on her makeup. That's what it was. Her makeup was rather scary looking. It was way overdone and just scary looking. You look at some of the stuff they've been doing with Ronda lately, and it's just as scary.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, and like I said with Sherry, when you were talking about the Macho Man, his heel turn. With Elizabeth, the heel turn like that would not have worked. Bring Sherry Martel in, that heel turn worked perfect.
Agreed, 150%. Without Sherry Martel with him, the Macho King character would have not been anywhere near as potent as it was.
No.
That pairing, I completely agree with. That Sherry was she made him the complete package. Like Macho Man always needed somebody to play off of. And Sherry was the perfect dark side antithesis to Elizabeth. And it fed into that paranoia kind of that really defined the Macho King years that he
Yeah.
portrayed. So
I think paranoia is a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
Neuroses, that nervous paranoia.
Yeah, neurotic paranoia.
Yeah.
I've been on record saying this before, so I would love to get y'all's opinion on this. And I'm coming in blind. I wasn't able to listen to the first part of the show, so I'm not. In case we randomly talked about this earlier, I apologize, but I'm on record stating that the Macho Man Randy Savage character in the WWF from 1985 to 1992 and 93 is the single greatest story arc for an individual character that the WWF has ever had. Because if you look at Randy Savage, you can actually break his entire career down into story arcs. It's from 85 to 87. He is the supremely talented, supremely cocky, almost womanizing, abusive, jockhead, just complete douchebag, tool. I mean, just an utter jerk. The kind of guy that if he wasn't so damn talented, you would just want to smack him upside the head to get rid of him. But by sheer grace of his awesomeness, you can't help but not like him.
Right.
And then from 87 to 89, he starts to reform his ways. Like Elizabeth is such a calming influence on him that he begins to find himself. That I'll never forget the main event in 1988 when he holds the ropes for Elizabeth for the first time and the crowd goes boffo. I mean, they just explode. But then he can't overcome his inherent nature, and he starts to slip into that paranoia that Hogan is out for Elizabeth.
Well, whoa. Let's be fair. Hogan did have jealous eyes. Let's be fair.
Yeah. Well, but see, I always thought
it's not paranoia if you're right, Mr. Kensington.
Oh, yeah, I grant you that.
Jesus.
But I always viewed that as a metaphysical layer of the storyline. Whenever he thought that Hulk Hogan was lusting after Elizabeth, Elizabeth was a psychological substitute for Randy's spot for the championship, because that's what Randy had come to covet so much. He didn't realize what he really coveted was Elizabeth. And so on a subliminal level, he sees Hulk Hogan lusting after Elizabeth like, you're going after my woman. But in reality, what Randy's really jealous of is the fact that Hogan wants his spot. And Randy can't prioritize himself. He becomes paranoid. He turns heel. And now he loses his spot and his woman. And so he descends into this utter madness. And ultimately, it leads him to making, terrible decision after terrible decision until finally he goes one step too far. The Ultimate Warrior challenges him to a retirement match. He loses his career. Sherry turns on him, beats him up. Now here comes Elizabeth, the one person that can redeem him. She saves him. He finally realizes after all these years what he had right in front of him, and the treasure, the crown jewel that he'd always had, never realized. And boom, he finally turns. He finally turns, and he's finally redeemed himself. And now he's, the fallen hero that's going to pick himself back up. And it's an arduous march. And you got Jake Roberts trying to tempt him back to the dark side. And then Ric Flair trying to manipulate his emotions. But he manages to overcome all of that. And in WrestleMania 8, he stands tall in the middle of the ring without Hulk Hogan over his shoulder. He's got the world championship. He's got the woman that he loves. It's the perfect encapsulation of that entire character from 85 all the way to that moment. It's just the perfect story arc where you see what he was, and what he became, and what he ultimately ended up being. I just think it's perfect storytelling from start to finish.
And you got to realize part of that storytelling was actually true. real life the jealousy of anybody looking at Elizabeth. It was true.
Mm-hmm.
So the storyline in real life connected together.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the age old adage that everyone always talks about. Wrestling is best when it's real life turned up to 11.
Yep.
Those are the best characters. So
Yep.
anyway, I didn't mean to take
no,
off.
No, you're fine, dude.
Going back to your female Undertaker-ish character,
Yes.
who would you have?
Are we talking about?
I know you said Rosemary. If you can't have her, who's next?
Are we talking about in the role of Sister Abigail, or just an Undertaker style character that's separate from that?
And is in the character it makes Sister Abigail the Undertaker-ish character. Yeah. She
If
also wrestles.
if we were looking, I have one name in mind, and I pick her for one thing because I think that there's a mild facial resemblance to Bray and Bo, anyways.
Oh, I know where you're going.
But she's got the size, and she already has the awesome name. So, it's
I
like,
don't know where you're going.
who did you think I was going with?
I thought you were going to say Shayna Baszler.
No.
Poor girl looks a little bit like Bray and Bo.
Shayna, I wouldn't change a thing about Shayna.
No.
Neither would I.
So who are you talking about?
She's from the Mae Young Classic this year. She was a first round exit. But she's got the size, the look, and she's not bad in the ring, and I think she could get a lot better. Her name is Vanessa Craven. Vanessa Craven, I think, with the right makeup and the right attire, could make an excellent Sister Abigail. Because you don't want someone that's like too... this is where I got to mark my words very carefully. You don't want someone that's too aesthetically pleasing. You want someone that can look kind of like a monster. So you want someone that is inherently intimidating. And Vanessa Craven has that kind of evil, childlike charm, like a Chucky doll almost. It's like she's got the intimidating presence and she's got the aesthetic down. You just need to get her a wardrobe and get her a rocking chair and she can make hay with it.
Because I'm looking at the chat. Adam's coming up with a name, Princess Kelly.
Princess Callie?
Kelly.
I don't know that.
I'm not sure that I know that
I
either.
don't know who it is either. But that's the name that Adam brought up.
I don't know that name, Adam. I'm sorry.
Princess Kelly.
I'm looking it up. Hang on.
Oh, Priscilla Kelly.
He says,
Oh, Priscilla Kelly. Okay.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
because he's saying Princess Kelly.
I think. Oh my God! Yes, Priscilla Kelly. Well, now here's the thing with Priscilla Kelly, Adam. She's got to promise not to dry hump people. I mean, she makes her living grinding on her opponent. She's very much like Paige in her kind of sexual fetish phase turned up to 11, where she literally is rubbing her vagina on her opponents.
We call that pulling an Aries in the Curtain Jerker household.
I call it the lesbian pollen attack. I know Asuka had a nice lesbian pollen attack when she was as Kana. I don't disapprove of the choice because she absolutely has the look. She just look at her picture from the Mae Young Classic. I mean, you can tell she's got that darkness about her. Yeah, as long as she's toning it down, some of like the R-rated stuff that she does on the indies, she could absolutely work in that role. But I almost think she's too. I don't know. I don't know. That's a tough one.
That is a tough one.
That is a tough. Yeah, I quite like her on the independent scene. She's funny. She makes me feel.
She's funny. That's different.
Mm-hmm.
Vanessa Craven, I looked at the pictures. Yeah, she looks a lot like Bo. She has a lot of the facial features that those two boys have.
And see, that's what the good thing about Vanessa Craven is. Like, without trying to demean her appearance, Like, you're not going to look at Vanessa Craven and be like sexually attracted like right off. It's like you're not looking at her for her beauty, whereas Priscilla Kelly is a very attractive woman. Even she's got that Paige aesthetic to her, but she draws so much sensuality into her character. That's almost the first thing you notice. And I'm not sure that Sister Abigail needs to be played up so sensually, which is why someone like Vanessa Craven, who is she's more of the Awesome Kong variety, where she's like just bulk presence. Like Awesome Kong was just a monster. Vanessa Craven looks like a monster character. I'm not saying she's ugly. I'm just, you know what I'm saying. I'm trying not to get hijacked by the PC crowd here because I'm not trying to boil it down to.
I understand. I think though a Priscilla Kelly could work though in her own regard if you decide to go that direction.
Oh yeah, it definitely could. It definitely could. I mean, if you wanted to kind of veer back towards what Taker was talking about earlier, where you're not having her necessarily be a wrestler, but just to have someone that's got presence. What about Sarah Del Rey? She's never appeared on WWE TV as Sarah Del Rey, but I mean, you talk about intimidating presence. She's almost got a motherly vibe to her because of the age that she would have. She would definitely be like the older sister, but I mean, there's a possibility if you don't want to use one of your wrestlers, especially if it's going to be a complete non-wrestling role. With the caveat, of course, that if Sarah Del Rey ever needed to get physical in the ring, you know she's got the goods because she's a world-class worker. So
yeah, but like I say, you don't see her face. You don't see Sister Abigail's face ever. You know, even if she does wrestle, she is in her hood. She has a hood that will stay on her head, just so that more mysterious, more mystery to her. Has anybody seen what she looks like? Why does she hide under this hood?
And you know something that kind of gets me with WWE these days. Something like that you would think would be something they would jump at the chance to do, just from a marketing standpoint. Like when the Shield turned face in 2014, you would have thought they would have kept the Shield face for at least a year or two just to sell the merchandise.
Well, Hunter had to have the last laugh.
Ugh.
I mean, Leopard doesn't change its spots, ladies and gentlemen.
You can't tell me that there wasn't someone else that could have been shoehorned in to fill out the nude spot at Evolution. Like, you can't tell me they couldn't have used someone else and kept that group together. I mean, that indirectly killed Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns never recovered from that. And I would argue that Beth and Dean indirectly didn't recover because they were hamstrung for so many years. And they're being hamstrung again with all this nonsense on Raw these days. So,
yeah. But no, getting back to, like I said, Sister Abigail is something that the fans need. But we need to do it in such a way that Bray goes back. Bray has lost his steadying influence in Matt, and he slowly slips into the insanity that is Sister Abigail. Only this time, when he finds her in the swamps or wherever he finds her, she is very unhappy with him and punishes him to no end. You see all this in the vignettes. All you see is him being punished. You don't hear him talking. All you hear is him screaming and being punished for what he did.
For his failures. And then you could tie that back into it on kind of a second level.
Right.
The only thing that depresses me about that is I feel like that can only work if Bray is coming back as a heel. And I don't really want to see Bray Wyatt as a heel. Not for a while, at least.
Well, I don't really want to see Bray Wyatt, period, full stop. But
not as he is. No, I would like him to be repackaged. I mean, I think there's value in him as a performer, even though he kind of comes across like a jerk on social media. I mean,
I don't. One of my long-standing rules is I don't really care about Twitter. You know,
Well,
in general,
I
I don't
only
let
use-
it. I don't let it. I don't let it influence my value of somebody one way or the other. If you're good at it, like Stokely Hathaway, that's nice. But if you're not, that's okay too.
I will admit that I have a personal bias because of what happened in my marriage. I have a real problem with people that cheat on their spouses.
Well,
I understand there's things that happen, but I can't be unbiased in that respect because of what happened in my marriage. So I'm just going to toss it out there and then drop it because
Okay.
it's not a big deal here.
that's fair.
But I think Bray as a heel is played out right now. And the only reason, and you need to have Bray as a babyface before you go back to Sister Abigail, because Sister Abigail is your trump card. That's the one big thing you could do with Bray still before that character is pretty much tapped out. And I would like Bray to get a run as a babyface before we go the heel route, because once the heel route is done, I don't see any use for Bray. And I really don't want Bray just being a character that just lurks for another decade until he retires because WWE has nothing for him.
Okay.
So,
That's interesting.
I mean, we can all agree, though, that WWE would probably screw it up. I mean, we can sit here and talk about perfect
Yeah.
scenarios.
Oh, there's no doubt.
That's the scary thing. You know,
There's no doubt, my friends.
you know, I think the biggest monster that we all are afraid of is the WWE
It's Vince
itself.
McMahon.
The WWE itself. Because I think the biggest. Whoa! What was
Hello?
that?
What was what?
What happened?
I don't know what happened. Somebody had volume on their something or other.
Sounds fine to me.
Yeah, they're all clear on my end.
Clear on my end.
I heard myself in my headset, and I'm like, "What? Wait a minute! What's going on here?"
Might have had some
You were-
feedback there for a second.
You were echoing earlier.
Yeah, I know I was. And then I heard myself in the headset, and I'm like, "What's going?" Anyway, but no,
Anyway.
the scariest monster in the room is WWE itself.
Yeah, they're the ultimate monster heels.
Yep.
Yeah. And can we just point out that in the grand history of wrestling, no company has ever been stupid enough to make themselves literally the heel before until WWE did it. Like, how
This
dumb
this feud that WWE has with their fans is fascinating to me on many levels. You know, they hate their fans hate them, yet they're making money hand over fist.
It's
know?
the kids, George. It's the kids.
It's not, though. The average Raw viewer is in his 50s. It's not the kids. People say that it's the kids. It's the kids. The average Raw viewer is a middle-aged man.
I think the
I
last
hate to say the biggest monster heel we have in wrestling is Vince McMahon.
yeah, in more ways than one.
Yep.
To answer George's point, the last graph I saw, I think that the under 12 crowd made up 8% of the total viewership on a given year. I forget where I saw this information, but someone broke it down. It's like the under 12 crowd represents 8%. It was one of the lower demographics. Like, majority of the fans, like over 60%, are over the age of 30. And if you go down to like 20, it's almost, 75% of the fan base, which is the interesting dichotomy. They book and they produce talent or the content for children, but that's not their primary audience. At least not the audience that's actually watching. Which kind of honestly makes a little bit of sense to me, because honestly they do a very poor job creating characters that kids really would like. Like, what's the one knock on all of the big heroes in WWE right now?
They're idiots.
They're idiots. They're not cool. Like, The Rock was cool. Rob Van Dam was cool.
Stone Cold Steve Austin was cool.
Yeah.
Yes. Steve Austin, cool. The original John Cena was cool. Batista, when he was out of Evolution, was cool. Rey Mysterio was cool. Edge, cool. Roman Reigns is a dork. Roman Reigns is, I mean, he makes stupid decisions.
He's cool. I'm going to say it, and I'm going to get people pissed at me. He's cool if you want to fuck him.
Well, shit.
If you want to bang him, he's cool as hell. You know?
Roman Reigns, everybody has said it, and it's like beating a drum at this point. He's naturally a heel in real life. He's got the natural heel charisma. He would be the best heel in the company if they would let him be what he was meant to be.
Well, look at okay, not to steal your thunder, Biff, but what family is he from?
The Anoa'i family.
Right. What were Alpha and Sika for most of their careers?
Heels.
Hello? Who's his father?
Yeah.
Most of the family was heels.
Yeah. Let's see. Most of the family was heel. Let's see. Umaga, heel.
Yep.
The Usos, when they first came up, were heels.
And their best work was as heels.
I mean,
you look at their work now. You look at their work now as being.
But it's not just the Samoans. Every major mainline WWF/E star over the past 30 years started off as a heel.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's how you get over, and then you turn as a babyface, and then it works.
I can only think of one WWE champion that breaks that mold.
Who's that?
Ultimate Warrior. Warrior, when he was a heel in his territorial days.
Yeah, the Dingo
Warrior.
So
Ultimate Warrior was a terrible, terrible draw.
Yeah, he never really drew, so there you go.
He didn't draw money, no.
No.
Well, Bruno was never really a heel.
No,
not into Japan.
Biff, that was 50 years ago, though. Come on.
I'm making your point. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you. I'm being a smartass about it. Yeah, like if you really dig, you could find Pedro Morales or Bob Backlund. But the point that y'all are raising is apropos here. It's you've got to go heel before you can be a face, and I think there's an important rationale behind that. You need to go heel first. Because the best baby faces are the baby faces that the fans make.
Right.
You don't. Whenever the company tries to make a baby face, they fail through their freaking teeth.
Yeah, well,
Lex Luger,
I've said this on my show Thursdays 9/8 Central. Wow. The star-making machine is broken.
Somebody's got an open mic that's echoing like crazy. Because George, you were echoing like mad. I'm sure.
Well, if I'm okay.
Now you're fine.
Okay. Okay.
That was weird. Go ahead, anyway.
No, it doesn't matter.
No, go ahead.
I said the star-making machine is broken. They don't know how to make stars.
You're right.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. They when's the last time they legitimately made a star? I mean, legit made a star, and I'm not talking about people that were stars that came into the company.
John Cena, 14 years ago, or whatever it was.
Yeah, I can give you a list of names: John Cena, Dave Batista when he first came up,
okay,
Brock
2005,
Lesnar,
2002.
Brock Lesnar when he first came around was a star. They made him.
Yeah,
but who had influence? Who had sway over it? Who was running OVW at the time? Wasn't that one Paul Heyman?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, CM
Punk was made by the company.
They have figured out the ticket to success, and the ticket to success is make first-run television an era where that's incredibly valuable. They are not a wrestling company; they are a content-producing company. It's Vince's dream. Vince has spent 30 years being terrified of being a professional wrestling promoter, despite making hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars doing it. So now, here we are. He's won. He's finally won. So
save us, Base H.
Sure, but
That's one thing that's going to, if Triple H gets in that seat, in that chair, the CEO's chair, when Vince steps down, hopefully to go run his football league into the ground.
Yeah, have fun with that.
And Triple H takes over and starts changing things. And one of the first changes I hope he does is, oh yes, fire that beaver son of a bitch, Kevin Dunn.
You've mentioned him a lot, and I don't doubt that he is a problem. But I mean, Vince is the Napoleon here, guys. He's the one making the decisions. It's not Kevin Dunn. I mean, are there issues with production? Absolutely. Do the quick cuts annoy the shit out of me? Absolutely. Are the scripted promos death? Absolutely. But I mean, Vince is the one sitting in the captain's chair. You know,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Elo.
Vince has got the final say.
Yeah.
It's an institutional failure from the top down.
Exactly.
There are so many problems, and Kevin Dunn is a problem.
That's a problem, and I'm not. If you want to axe his ass, great. I'll drive him to the airport. You know. But
I mean, as long as Vince is in charge, he's got a job.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. You know why I'm confident in Triple H? And it's going to sound so weird, but when you hear me make the case, I think that everybody here will understand what I'm coming from. Look at the NXT brand. Look at NXT UK for a second. Look at the championships. What's different about them?
They're all old school looking.
They're old school, but they're also different. They're not templates. They're not carbon copies. Like the WWE Universal Championship are identical. They just got a different color strap. The Women's Championships, identical. The tag titles, identical, just different color straps. But in NXT, they had the template for a while, but all the titles look different. In NXT UK, the tag team championships, they have a distinct look that is theirs. Okay, and the UK Championship and the UK Women's Championship, they look distinct from their NXT counterparts. That shows me he has an eye for detail. The aesthetics matter. And that is the one thing that WWE does so poorly is manage their aesthetics. Look at, we all watched wrestling in the golden era. Okay, from the 80s into the 90s. We all did it here. Every one of us has seen WWF television from 1989 at some point in our lives. It's a statistical guarantee. I guarantee you that each one of us in this room right now, if we saw a clip of the Boston Garden, we could instantly say, oh, they're in the Garden.
Yep,
or if they're in MSG, they're in MSG, or if they're in the Philadelphia Spectrum or the Rosemont Horizon or the Maple Leaf Gardens,
we Allstate Center, for God's sake.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's like wait a minute, in the Allstate,
that is the Rosemont Horizon.
Yeah, that is the Rosemont Horizon. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, so same thing, but because hell, like even the ring in the Rosemont Horizon used to be different from any other ring. Like if you look at WrestleMania 2, if you watch WrestleMania 2 on the WWE Network, you can watch the New York portion and the Los Angeles portion, and you can tell they're in different venues. You watch the Chicago portion, the ring sounds like it explodes every time somebody takes a bump. Like Dynamite Kid running on the ring is going clack, 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 clack. It's just crazy loud. But that was the ring. That was what the Rosemont Horizon had. That's how you knew you were in Chicago. It's like the little microphone that lowers down from the ceiling with the MSG thing. That's the Garden. It's those little touches that used to give life to the product. And it had anything to do with LED boards on the rings or the strobe lights. It was just every venue had character and life. And somewhere in the 90s, that got lost in the sanitized.
I mean, we'll look at it this way, Mr. Kensington. If you watch a Monday Night Raw from 1998, with the exception of the stage, it looks the exact same. The presentation is the same 20 years from now. 20 years ago, excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah, I've made that same comparison. Look at 1984 WWF versus 1994 WWF.
Oh, it's night and day.
It's dramatic. 94 WWF to 2004 WWF, dramatic, night and day. 2004 WWF to 2018 WWF or WWE, you couldn't tell the difference.
You couldn't tell the difference. The only difference is if it's an HD or not.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a little smoky because they had fireworks back then and they don't.
Oh, yeah.
But other than that, I mean, it's the same. It's the same. And it's a lot of the same people on commentary too. Michael Cole, you know.
Yep, Michael Cole been bad for 20 years.
It's just,
and he still can't get it right.
Nope, he is. He is no good.
It's the same stuff over and over.
So,
yeah, like I said, we can all agree that the biggest monster heel, the biggest monster heel in this whole thing is Vince and the WWE itself. And that's sad.
Well, he is the higher power, so
true.
Oh, it was me, Austin.
It was me,
Austin. It was me all along.
Do we have anything else we want to talk about?
Did we get a chance to talk about Don Leo Jonathan?
We did not. Good. Thank you for bringing that up.
No, who's that?
Don Leo Jonathan. It's actually pretty important monster heel in his own right. Back in the Bruno Sammartino era, Don Leo Jonathan, very big man in the territory era. He was like 6'6", 6'7",
agile.
Yes, he was huge. Kind of one of the recurring villains that would challenge Bruno Sammartino for the WWF Championship. He actually passed away. I believe it was not yesterday. It might have been the day before.
No, it was 2 days ago, the 13th.
Yeah. But we definitely needed to throw a shout out to him and his family because he was a very successful territorial wrestler and a monster heel in his own right. Kind of the classic monster heel where he's not supernatural. He's just big and mean and vicious and kind of a freakish athletic phenom, almost like a Lars Sullivan kind of an NXT, so to speak, where he just looks huge, but he can move real fast and he's scary as a result. And definitely wanted to send condolences to his family. It always sucks when we lose a legend like that. But Don Leo Jonathan, the quote-unquote Mormon giant, as he was nicknamed, passed away a couple days ago. So
doesn't say what it.
He wasn't a young man, so
he was 87, but it doesn't say what yet. That is sad.
Might have been natural causes for all we know.
It is sad. You know, it's another. For the scenes that we're talking about, sadness. Today it happened. This is not wrestling related whatsoever. Paul Allen, owner of the Seattle Seahawks and the Portland Trail Blazers, passed away from his non-Hodgkin's lymphoma today. He's 60. He just turned 65 recently.
He's a lot younger than I thought he was.
Yes, me too.
And he passed away today. He died today.
I did not know that. That.
Our thoughts and prayers go out to him
and his family. Yeah,
yes, to his family, of course. Yeah, you know, he was half of the team that founded Microsoft.
Yeah. Do you as far as Don Leo, before my time, obviously, before all of our times, but one thing I remember watching the videos, for a big guy, he had a pretty drop kick. He had a really pretty drop kick, you know?
He had a great drop kick, and it's like the Jim Cornette banana story. He's like one of the great urban legends in wrestling. When Bill Watts and Don Leo Jonathan got into so much trouble that they had to leave the country together. Which was always funny because Bill Watts always called it. Yeah, I had a little bit of legal trouble, had to leave the country. I mean, I don't know about you, but a little bit of legal trouble means let's go to the courthouse and get it figured out on Monday.
I had a parking ticket.
Let's not flee to Canada here.
Exactly.
But that shows you, kids, in the 60s and 70s, Canada was considered the wilderness still. So that's one of the great urban legends.
Yeah.
Did we talk about the missing link?
No, that was a scary character. Oy vey.
That was like I always
This
appreciate.
is, this is a guy, and now I know this for a fact. This is a guy that would grab his own hair and slam his head into the turnbuckle on purpose. You know, just yeah, he would freak me out when the first time I saw him. I'm like, holy hell, what's this?
He was weird. He was like freaky weird. Abdullah was scary weird. We talked about Abdullah last week. He was scary weird. I can tell you right now, there's only been 2 wrestlers that have ever, well, 3. Abdullah would probably qualify, but there's only been 2 wrestlers that not only scared me, Abdullah scared me. There's only been 2 wrestlers that absolutely terrified me. Kane was one of them.
Okay.
We'll be talking about soon.
Yeah, the OG Kane, but Jake Roberts in 91.
We talked about that.
Oh,
We talked about that at the beginning of the show, and what we talked about is we compared Kevin Sullivan as the taskmaster, the one who was quiet. He didn't, he talked calmly, and and told you what his people were going to do to you, and then by God, they went out and did exactly what he said they were going to do.
For my money, I'm going to throw this out there just to put a capsule on that since y'all got to it earlier. And I'm glad y'all did, because if Jake Roberts had been able to kick the personal demons that he struggled with for so long, he would have had one of the all-time great heel runs in the history of the business. I mean, he already did. And he was only a heel for the better part of like 10 months, but in WWF at least. I mean, he went to WCW, and less said about that run, the better. But
let's not talk about that.
That was bad.
Make the deal, but he terrified me. He scared the living crap out of me. I will never forget. See, I was big into snakes as a kid. I'm not so big into them now. I guess that's what happens when one gets in your house and you come face to face with it. But I used to be huge into snakes as a kid, and so I knew that cobras were deadly. Like they would kill you. And so when he puts a cobra in Miss Elizabeth's wedding present box at the end of SummerSlam '91, I'm pissing my pants. 5 or 6 year old Biff, however old I was in '91. And then, Randy Orton, oh my God. Randy Savage getting bitten by a cobra. That scared the shit out of me. I thought Randy Savage was dead. And they put that big giant red censored X, which made it all the more terrifying, because you really thought like he was getting maimed in the ring. In reality, the snake didn't have fangs, so it couldn't bite properly, and it's just sitting there gnawing on the guy's arm.
That couldn't have been funny either way, though.
Randy Savage, Ted DiBiase always said it best. Randy Savage, he's like, "You were a braver man than I was."
Yeah, no shit.
I'm not letting I don't care. You can tell me he's been divinized. I ain't letting no King Cobra gnaw on my arm for 10 minutes.
No, not gonna happen. No, sir. No, sir.
Nope.
And then he went, and you wouldn't think that attacking someone with a King Cobra could be topped. And then that son of a bitch, a week later, he tops it. Now, I don't advocate male on female violence to get heat very often, because I think that it's just uncomfortable and doesn't need to be done. The fact that this was the only time it happened in that era, it's like it's as close to the border of acceptability as you can get without becoming unacceptable. But Macho Man Randy Savage was going to kill him. Like, it was the all-time great heel moment. I mean, he could have, shot a puppy on TV and not gotten any more heel heat than he did at Tuesday in Texas. It's just that is the quintessence. When someone says monster heel, Jake Roberts at Tuesday in Texas may have well been Satan. He might as well have been the devil.
That's the infamous Undertaker face turn.
Yep.
It was, whose
Side
side
are you on? Not yours.
Not yours. Yeah.
Yep. Great answer.
Oh, and when he's dragging the casket, and Jake Roberts is like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
Screwed up.
Yeah, it's like Jake Roberts is Satan, and here comes this undead monster that's just stalking him. It's like, holy shit. Undertaker's on our side.
You know.
He's on our side. We're all baddies. You know, it's like,
yeah.
I mean, that's, you want to talk about people that made.
Well, the thing that drove it home, and George said it best, because it was when it came to Jake Roberts, was the soft-spoken words he used and those freaking dark doll eyes he had. Because you would find yourself leaning forward to hear what he has to say, because he would talk so calmly and so low like this. And you'd actually lean forward, and his eyes would be right on this camera, and you'd be locked into them, and you would actually believe what he's saying. At least I did. And I was a freaking teenager.
I sure as shit believed it at 5 and 6 years old. I thought he was trying to kill people with that damn snake.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too. It's like when he went, I mean, you would think, just if you're not familiar with snakes, like the python being so much bigger would look so much more intimidating, but there's just something about a cobra that just has that deceptively evil look. It's like the perfect accompaniment for that heel turn. Like if he had kept using the python as the heel.
Oh, you mean his pal Damien?
Yeah. Yeah. It wouldn't, if he had kept Damien, if Earthquake hadn't made, snake burgers out of him, and he had just kept using Damien as the trust me heel, I don't think it would have worked half as well as it did.
No.
I mean, that clip when Randy Savage is being wheeled to the back to get to the emergency room after he's been bit, and it pans back to Jake Roberts in the ring, and he's sitting there laughing at the Cobra when it's got the full hood spread up, and Vince McMahon is like, Jake Roberts, he's snapped, he's sick.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck yeah, take all my money.
Watch the language, Biff. Dropping F-bombs. We don't want to be doing that here. You know that. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. George?
Yeah, I'm here.
I think Biff just dropped.
I think he was talking too much about the snake.
Yeah.
Because
I know you heard him drop an F-bomb, and I said, hey, watch the language, and he went dead quiet.
I did hear that, yeah.
And we got to stop that. That's one thing we try not to do here. It slips every once in a while, but we got to be careful. Anywho.
Do you want to take us home?
I don't have the list, though.
Okay.
So we won't do plugs.
My show is the most important one. We know that.
Yeah, we got George, where can they find you?
Twitter and Instagram at Giatsavis, G-A-T-S-A-V as in Victor E-S. I podcast in addition to this fine show Thursdays at 9/8 Central. My show's Twitter feed is at 2 Guys 1 Sport, the number 2 and the number 1.
Yeah.
What about you, my friend? Where can they find you?
Well, they can find me at Takers_Minion on Twitter. Here on Mondays at 8/7 Central for Connoisseurs of Wrestling, and on Saturday mornings on the Mothership, Shooting the Breeze, I should say, with my host and co-host and crime partner, Mr. Dr. Senju. That's every Saturday morning at 11 Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, except on the weekends of the Big 4 pay-per-views, which we'll have one coming up next month. The target date, as I stated last week, for the moving of this show, amongst others, is December 1st. We're going to be switching over to Twitch. Us, Shooting the Breeze, 2 Guys 1 Sport, and I think Grounds for Development are all going over there. It's going to be it's a new market for us. It's going to be something great. We're all going to be in one location. It's going to be under the Los Ingobernables de Podcast banner. And we will keep you guys updated as to how things go. Hey, Biff, you're back.
Well, that was uncomfortable.
What happened?
Yeah, long story. This has not been my night. It has not been a good night. I'm not sure if the story of my cat made it to air earlier.
No, we didn't talk about that.
Yeah, yours truly lost a podcasting microphone because my cat is a dumbass. A jackass.
Yeah.
So,
got plugs for us, there, Biff?
well, we gotta obviously do the LIP family of plugs. Two Guys Sports with. These are the plugs you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Two Guys One Sport with Crazy Chris and our own George Curtin Jerker Outsavis. That comes at your Thursday evenings, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, over on the YouTube. But we've also got the Godfather himself with Mr. Doc Senju on Saturday mornings at Shooting Debris, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. That's on non-Big Four pay-per-view weekends. When we get to Survivor Series, it'll be an hour earlier. But that'll be on YouTube at least for the next couple of weeks. The LIP family of podcasts is going to be moving to Twitch. The new channel is up, and some subscribers have already begun to filter their way over that way. So everybody in the LIP family is going to be moving over to Twitch. I think it's the 1st of December. Yeah.
Correct.
1st
of December.
Don't want to forget Greg the Hold, a.k.a. the Saskatchewan Spinning Nerf Hold. He's coming at you every Thursday morning with Grounds for Development. It's a new podcast devoted to NXT and 205 Live, and I'm sure NXT UK will get some play in there as well. Really great.
Well, you guys are bringing that show over too, right?
As far as I'm aware, there's been no direct communication about that. At first, I thought the only thing that was going over was Shooting a Breeze, and then it became LIP was going over.
Yeah, so. I had that thought a long time ago. No, yeah. It was. First of all, the inspiration for LIP was Chris. He was wearing a Los Ingobernables t-shirt. Is what started it all. That's how that came about.
I was going to say I never actually knew how the group had formed.
It was one of those things. I was talking to him on Twitter one morning because I talk in direct messages on Twitter, and I went over to his page, or I went on my main feed for some reason. There he was sitting there with a Los Ingobernables t-shirt on. I think it was a Los Ingobernables de Japón. I wasn't sure. But I saw that, and I'm like, And then I started playing around with this, and I came up with the Los Ingobernables, the podcast. And Chris and George joined, and myself and MDS, and then we've since added LL, and we've added you, and we've added Greg. And we're hoping
we added Sal.
And we had Sal. You know, Sal, it's the original members are myself, MDS, George, Chris, and Sal. The newest three are LL, you, Biff, and Greg DeHole. So we're hoping you guys will bring that show over. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, well, I will definitely talk to Greg about that. Obviously,
I'm not sure if it can be uploaded to Twitch, but we'll figure that out. You might have to do your show live every week.
Well, we'll definitely be talking with him about that. But Greg the Hold, I mean, if you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, he's a really great guy, and he does a lot of great work over on Grounds for Development. He's definitely worth a listen. I tag along. I'm kind of his. Oh Lord, I am the
color commentary to his play-by-play.
I'm the Ed McMahon to his Johnny Carson. So
okay.
That worked. Yeah, that'll work. He's the Johnny Carson but he's a lot nicer than Johnny was because he's Canadian. So Canadians are just inherently nice people. And I mean, even the jerks from Toronto are nicer per capita than almost anyone from the States. So that's a long way of short of saying, he's got a great show. So check out Grounds for Development. That drops Thursday mornings. Two Guys, One Sport drops Thursday evenings. Shooting the Breeze here on Saturday, and then the Connoisseurs of Wrestling here on Monday. I am not sure off the top of my head when Don Sell is dropping his next show. I think he is.
He's on sabbatical, I think.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. He had mentioned
correct, George.
That is correct. Yes, sir. That is correct.
He had mentioned something about having a new show at some point soon, but I haven't got any details on that to pass along. So. We did have a lot of fun with Don Sal Thursday, the last couple of Thursdays, though, on the Two Guys, One Sport fantasy draft, which I'm proud to say yours truly won at. So
everybody won. There's no clear-cut winner. Everybody got exactly what they wanted there, Biff. I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Well, hey, it's a free country. You're welcome to be wrong at your leisure. So
anyway, where can they find you, Biff? Because we've already got George and where can they find you, LL?
On Twitter, it's Windstorm64, and here every Monday night.
And Biff.
You can catch me over at Cage Side Seats. I'll be in the daily and nightly threads for a little while longer. I'm also on the Twitter at Real Deal Biff. And big news, if you live in Switzerland, I'll be seeing you next spring, around the start of February to the end of May. I'm going to be an international traveler, so yay!
It's not going to affect your work here, is it?
I wouldn't expect to just have to record at a different hour or something, maybe, but we'll figure that out logistically. I can't pass up a free semester abroad in Switzerland. I can't do it.
Well, what are you doing?
I am one of the top 5 in my class that's going to be graduating next year. And so for my final semester in grad school, I had all expenses paid semester abroad in Switzerland that I'm going to take. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Good on you.
I posted last night and nobody responded to it at Cage Side, so I'm not surprised that it didn't filter out. But yeah, I'm going to be moving to Switzerland for a couple of months in 2019.
Well, good on you. Brush up on your French.
And German.
And German, yeah. All right, guys. That's it for tonight. Episode 24. Monster Heels. We are done for tonight. On behalf of Biff, George, and my lovely wife, Legends Lover. I can't speak because I'm getting tired. This has been Connoisseurs. We all care, and you all be nice to one another. Take care, and we'll see you all next week. Good night.
Bye, guys.